Hey, what's up, Emily?
Yeah.
Yeah. How you guys doing?
Doing pretty good.
Good. All right.
Hey, Lulu.
Hi.
Hey, Lulu.
Weird question, Lulu. Did you do AFX?
Yeah, I'm the same Lulu that you did.
You are? You are? Oh my gosh. Okay. I saw your name and I was like, I'm pretty sure I know a Lulu you, but I didn't know you were at the coder school.
Yeah, I just got hired.
Oh, what? How do you like the coder school so far?
It's good. Everyone's really nice. It's pretty fun.
So, yeah, so I met Lulu at Berkeley. We were on the same dance
Yeah.
team.
Oh, cool. Wait, what kind of dance troupe was it?
It's kind of like a mix of different genres.
Yeah. Like on the modern tip or?
Yeah, like there's like hip hop mixed with like low-key contemporary, but like it's not that serious.
Oh yeah, nice.
It was an intro.
Yeah.
It was for like completely new dancers.
Oh, nice.
Okay, I'm gonna send you guys a file through Zoom chat. It's gonna take a while to load up. But when it's censored, you guys can just download the file and we'll import it into Unity. And Lulu, do you have Unity downloaded?
I'm currently downloading it right now.
Okay, cool. It's taking a bit to load up. Maybe I'll try putting on Google Drive too.
Should we create a new project or should we?
Yeah, so if you guys can open up Unity Hub and create a new project, you can do 2018 version, you can do whichever version you have. And then I'm sending over a Unity package right now. So then when it comes through, yeah.
Oh, which kind of project should we create?
Oh, good question. Here, let me go ahead and just open up my Unity and then screen share that. Screen share the process. Let's see. Cool. Should be trying this right. Okay, just go ahead and we're going to click on new project. I'm going to choose 2018. I'm going to choose a 3D project. You can call this anything you want to. This workshop is going to be based off of Unity's Unit 2 workshop. So I think they call their project Prototype 2. You can call it Unit 2, or you can call it, I think it's like a projectile project. That sounds kind of cool, so I'll just call it Projectile project. Then just go ahead and click create. All right, hi Lena.
Hi. Hi everybody. Hi Lulu.
Hello.
So glad
Hi.
you're here. Hey Nick, I got your text. I just got out of a meeting, but I'll write back.
Okay, thanks.
Huh?
So let me know when everyone has their new project open.
Bye everybody. I'll see you later.
Hi Lena.
Bye bye.
Thanks for checking in.
Bye.
I got mine open.
Okay. Cool. Jimmy, Nick, cap out, you too.
Yep, mine is open.
Okay.
Oh, I'm just taking notes right now. Like,
Okay.
yeah, taking that angle. I think I'll rewatch the video again too.
Got it. Sounds good. Lulu, is your Unity downloaded yet?
I'm at 76%, but you can keep going. I can catch up.
Okay, sounds good then. So let me go ahead and open my project. So once you have the project open, and I actually already have it open on mine, go ahead and download the Unity package that I sent through chat, and it should look something like this right here. You guys see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Make sure I'm sharing correctly. Yeah. So once you have that Unity package, download it. We're just gonna go ahead and click and drag it and drop it into the project folder here. And then the project's going to ask you, oh no, my Unity is freezing. It's going to ask you, do you want to import all this? You're gonna click all and you're gonna click import.
Do you just anywhere in the projects section, or does it matter?
Just as long as it's in the project folder area, it just indicates to Unity that this is a file that you want to add into the project.
Cool.
And then you're gonna want to make sure to import everything in there. I'm gonna hit cancel because I already have it imported. And this should be what your project looks like. Let me know when you guys have that ready.
Mine is still regular. Huh. I'm getting warnings for like mesh errors.
Mesh errors, really?
Yeah.
Can you just ignore the warnings? I think it should be okay.
It's still not showing up for some reason though. The project isn't. Might be something I did.
Did it just kind of go away, or did it? Because you need to actually click on the scene. If you open up the scenes folder, is there a prototype 2 in there?
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh,
if you
okay.
just double click on that, and that should get you to the scene.
Okay,
Oh,
cool.
yeah,
I just did that. I got the scene now.
Yeah, you double clicked on prototype 2?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Nick. I already had it open, so I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, I was confused about the same thing. It's like, did it not work? Then I remembered. So.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, yeah, click prototype 2. And so this is going to be the project. Today we're going to build just a simple shooter where you have some animals kind of spawn and kind of run towards us, and we're going to try to feed the animals before they get past us and destroy our farm. That's the story behind the game. It's just going to be a simple like throwing projectile thing. So if you hit play right now, you should be able to move the player back and forth. So this was adapted from Unity's workshop, but I filled out some stuff so we can fit this workshop under an hour. Yeah, is it working for you guys?
I can go side to side, but I can't go up and down for some reason.
That's okay. That's the how the project's gonna work. So you can go side to side. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with trying to throw out a projectile. If you go ahead and click on the simple farmer on the right side, we have this player controller script and an animator, which are the two components that we need to kind of just create this player. In fact, I'm gonna actually rename this instead of saying simple farmer life round, I'm just gonna call it player. That's a bit more simple. And if you guys are teaching your students or using Unity yourselves, you should just try to rename files. So the animator see if I can open it up. Is just going to take in some values from the transform with our player controller and change the animation based on what it is. So I think it's taking note of my speed here. Actually, I'm not sure if it is animating. So that's Unity's file. Okay. I can't actually tell from the scene view if it's animating or not. I think when we throw things, it might animate. But for now, we're actually going to look through the player controller. And just go ahead and open that up in Visual Studio. And that part might take a second or so. Sorry, my computer is a bit slow right now. But let me describe to you what's in the script while I'm trying to get this loaded. You should see a horizontal input, a speed, and an X range. So this is going to take, this is based off of what we've done in previous workshops. Not super important to know. If you were here before, I think you should be able to look through it and understand what's happening. And for Lulu's, even though you weren't here before, we'll basically just cover the material in a second with a projectile.
Okay.
All right. Why is my Unity acting up like this? Okay. All right, I'm gonna resume share now. So what we're gonna want to do is, in order to fire a projectile, we're going to want to do a couple of things. We're gonna want to create the projectile. And the second thing is we only want to create that projectile when a certain action occurs. And in this case, it's gonna be when we hit our space bar. When we hit the space button, we want to create that projectile and shoot it out. So we can actually do that a couple of different ways. I think the easiest way is to do this in our update method. Remember, our update method is going to be called each frame. So in each frame, we can detect to see if the spacebar was hit. And there's a really cool Unity function for that already. We're going to be using the input library. So we're going to say if input.getKey, and there's a couple of subtle differences between get key down, and get key up. We're going to go ahead and use get key for now. We're going to say if input.getKey, we're actually going to say, well, what kind of key is this are we going to try and take in? So we're going to want to take in the spacebar. And to get that, it's going to be key code.space. So if input.getKey, key code.space, we're just going to go ahead and print shoot projectile. So just going to go ahead and see what this does. There's a lot of different key codes, by the way. If you guys don't like space, there's key code W, A, R, I think like left, alt, left arrow, all that are different options. So Unity makes it pretty easy. And then now if we actually go back to our Unity project, and I hit play here, in my console, it's a little bit hard to see. If I move around, hit space, I can see this shoot projectile message right here. That's a little bit hard to see, so I'm actually going to get out of play mode. I'm going to make sure I'm not maximized on play, and I'm going to change my layout so that the console is like pretty visible here. Let's move that down here. And depends on how your console is set up. So on the top right corner, you're going to want to change like the layout. I have like a preferred layout. I think we've created preferred layout in like previous workshops, but you might want to choose like a different one, or you can just find the console and move it. And here, when I'm not maximized on play, every time I hit spacebar, I get a message that says shoot projectile. So the message increases. I can also see the number right here. It's like going up every time I hit the spacebar. Okay, cool. Now I actually want to instantiate the projectile and then, like see it shoot out, right? We have what happens like when we do an input. Now let's actually do it. So I'm gonna go to my food, and you guys can choose whichever food item you want here. I personally really I think it's funny if we're shooting like steaks out at the animals here. So I'm just gonna grab the steak and put it into my hierarchy. Just drag and pull. And in my scene view, I'm gonna go ahead and see where it is. It's like right underneath my player here. I think what I'm gonna wanna do is bring up the steak, maybe to about like 1-ish, 1.5, 2-ish, and maybe move it a little bit up in front of my player as well. Something like that. If I go into my game view, it looks kind of small too. So I can increase the scale here. So it looks kind of nicer. If you guys want to make that a sandwich, a glass of wine, an apple or a carrot, that would work too.
Wait, sorry, where did you drag it to?
Drag the, what are you dragging, Lou?
Sorry, how do you drag it into the layer with the player?
Oh, good question. So just go ahead and drag it into the hierarchy. So you can just grab something and just put it anywhere here. You can hover over prototype 2, or you can just put in any space. And it should default set itself to 0, 0, 0, which is where the player is already.
I see.
Mm-hmm. And in the scene view, you can move your camera around by clicking the hand tool and left clicking and moving around to see where the food is at. And then in the transform on the right side in the inspector, you can go ahead and change the XY values.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Actually, would it be easier if we were all in the same layout, guys? Or what do y'all think? Nick's like, I don't care, I got this figured out.
Yeah, I'm good with it either way.
Okay, sounds good. Let me know if you guys prefer me to stay on one layout, because I can change it to one of the presets. Yeah, okay. All right, so we have the steak. And actually, now that we've added the steak, I feel like it might be a good idea to add the animals into at this point in time, because it's about the same thing, just so we can get like a visual on what we're actually doing. So if you go to the prefabs folder in your project folder, prefabs, it's actually a couple of prefabs here already. I am going to go in my scene view. I'm just going to shift select the cow, horse, and border collie, these prefabs, and just go ahead and drag them into the hierarchy. So in your game view, they should now kind of be put in a row like this. So this is just a nice visual. We're not going to keep these prefabs here because the game's going to spawn these, but it might be a nice visual to see. Okay. And you can actually delete the steak prefab here at the bottom. And then whichever food item you got, so I got a steak again, but maybe you guys grabbed like a carrot or an apple, just go ahead and drag this object from the hierarchy, and we're gonna go back into the project folder and the prefabs folder to create an original prefab. And that's just going to let us use this one object and then be able to make clones of it in the future to create more objects, to create more like projectiles to throw out. Okay, yeah, any questions?
Is it original prefab or?
Yeah, original prefab. Okay, cool. So now I'm gonna go back to my script, and instead of shooting projectile, I want to shoot the same prefab out. Yeah, but in order to do that, we're gonna actually have to access the prefab. So we're going to create an attribute to find in the inspector of Unity to drop the prefab in. And to do that, we're just gonna create a public variable. So I'm gonna create a public, and prefab isn't really a type, but game object is. And actually the food item is of a type game object. So we're creating a public game object, and I'm gonna call it something like projectile. We're gonna add a semicolon here. We're not gonna set this to anything just yet because we're actually going to instantiate this or set this variable inside of the inspector. So once you have this projectile variable, go ahead and save the project. And when you load up Unity, it's going to lag a little bit because it's going to compile the project. And now when I go to my player, where I put the player controller script, we have this new attribute here called projectile. And right now, there is nothing inside of this attribute, but we're going to go ahead and fill that in. This is the part where the prefab is going to come in handy. We're going to grab this food steak prefab and drop it into the projectile. And now it's filled out. Okay.
Cool.
Awesome. Now we're going to go ahead and go back to our script. And here for input.getKey, keycode.space, what we're going to do instead of printing is we're going to use something called instantiate. So the instantiate is a Unity function that will allow us to create a clone of a prefab. So it's going to take in an object original, which is going to be our projectile. And there's actually a lot of overridden methods too. So if you have the autofill function in your Visual Studio, you can go ahead and click on this arrow right here to see what other types of methods are. So it takes in, this specific method takes in just an object. This one takes in a parent. This one has an instantiate in world space Boolean. This one has a position and rotation, which is actually what we're going to want to use because we're going to want to change the position of the prefab based on where our player is standing. Right, because if we just put in the projectile, then it's just going to shoot from the center, regardless of where our player is, which doesn't make a lot of logical sense here. So we're going to put in our projectile. The next argument is going to be the position. To get the current player position, we're actually just going to go with, from the script, you can go this, which is this script, dot game object. The game object the script is attached to, dot transform, which I'm going to go back to Unity real quickly. If you go to player in the inspector, you see that the player has a transform component with an X, Y, and Z coordinate. So you can access the transform this way. And we specifically want a position, so we're going to go with position. So this game object transform position. That should be position now. Or is it only just taking transform? Oh, and it's erroring out because you're going to want to create a different rotation, but it thinks we're using like a different method. So we don't really know what to put in here yet, but let's focus on this part for now. So we want this transform position. However, Unity, I think, has like noticed developers' complaints about how like this code is like so long. So this is just a way to show you that these are the steps that we're taking, but Unity's actually simplified this process down. So we can just say transform position. So we don't need to say this game object. We can just simplify it down to transform position to get this game object's transform. And then lastly, we're gonna need the rotation. We don't want the player's rotation. We're gonna want just like the original rotation that the game object had. So we can just do projectile.transform.rotation. And that's just gonna say like whatever the prefab rotation was, we're just gonna send it off. Nothing fancy here.
Is rotation the angle of the food?
Yeah. Okay, so now let's go ahead and test this out. So every time I hit spacebar, I should create a clone of my projectile here. And whoa, okay. So it's not shooting out, but I'm creating a lot of stakes on the floor, which is kind of cool. I'm gonna put this game in pause. And in my scene view, I'm just gonna look around and see if this is doing what I want it to do. And this is kind of almost it, except for the food's on the floor and it's not floating like how I want it to be, right? And that's probably because we're using the player's transform. The player's transform is going to be at 0, 0, 0, which makes the player on the ground. So when we put our food on the ground or at the same transform, it's going to leave it on the ground as well. We probably want it to be about like midway up the player. And I think this prefab was about like a 1.5, 2-ish. So we're just going to aim for that as well. So we are going to just very slightly modify this transform.position to be a little bit higher. To do that, we're going to use the vector3 class. So we're just going to add to it a new vector3. And we want to add in the y direction. So x is going to be 0, and y is going to be something like 2. Excuse me. So that's just going to give the food some height. Okay, we can go and test this out now. I'm going to get out of play and pause mode. And now it looks the same from a top-down view, from a scene view. It's a little bit higher, which is great. Cool. And now I can also delete my original game object, this food steak here, because I'm going to be instantiating new ones. I don't need this original here. I don't really need to keep an eye on it. I'm just hit delete. Okay, let me know when you guys are ready. I can keep the script. Yeah?
Good.
Okay, cool. Okay, so our next step is, well, how do we get the projectile to actually move forward, right? So let's go to our scripts. Okay. So what we're gonna want to do is create a new script to move our food forward. To do that, I'm going to actually create or right click in the hierarchy, go to create and go to C# script. And I'm gonna name it move forward. And it's gonna be a generic name instead of projectile like moving forward, because I'm actually gonna attach a script to all my animals as well, obstacles, because I want them to move forward too in like a different direction. I'm gonna hit enter. I'm gonna open up this script. And ooh, it is taking a second. Well, if you guys accidentally renamed it something and had to rename it, just make sure that the class in the file is named the same thing. So in here, it's not going to be anything fancy. We're going to want to create a speed variable. So let's say a public float speed. I'm going to set something like 10. Actually, I really like the number 12F. The F to indicate that it's a float. Then an update, we're just going to be not even worrying about the physics of the game. We just want the projectile to like fly in a straight line. And it's pretty easy to do that even if in like a top-down view, even in like a first-person shooter or third-person shooter or whatever kind of shooting game you want to create. You just go transform. It's a lowercase transform actually. So we're going to act upon this object's current transform and we're going to translate. That is, we're literally just going to teleport the object forward. a certain distance. So we're going to go vector 3.forward, meaning that we're just going to move this projectile forward times speed times, and this next part is important, times the time dot delta time. This part is just going to smooth out the process a little bit. So if like maybe in 1 second, there's a lot more frames per second than the next one, this is just going to help ease that transition.
Sorry. Where did you create your file?
Yeah,
It should
good
be
one.
in the hierarchy.
It should be in the project folder. So if you have the project folder up and you go down to the scripts folder.
Oh, I see. I see.
Sorry, I'm moving a little bit
Okay. No, it's
more
okay.
faster than my first section. So just feel free to like interrupt me anytime.
No worries. Yeah. Thank you. I got it.
Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you for your question. Okay, so do we all have the script?
Mhm.
Lulu, do you have the script? No, it's not.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Then in Unity, we're just going to go ahead and attach it to all the prefabs. So we're going to go open up, click on the prefab to food stake. We're just going to add a component, and it's going to be the move forward component. And I'm just going to repeat the same process with the border collie. I'm going to click on the border collie in project folder, prefabs, add component at the very bottom, move forward, your horse, project folder, prefabs, project folder, scroll all the way down, add move forward, the cow, add move forward too. And of course, you could have also just highlighted this whole thing and just typed in move forward. But I want to show it multiple times, just in case. Okay, and once you have that, you hit the play button, see how this game works. Cool, so our animals moved forward, and suddenly there's the spawning that happens, which is implemented in the spawn manager. If you're curious, you can look through the script. And when I hit space, whoa, I have all these snakes shooting. Okay, let's say your student is creating this, and they say there's something wrong with like how I'm shooting my snake. Like, what do you think might be the issue? How it's looking? Like, is there anything kind of like interesting about the way we're shooting?
Should it not be holding it down to keep firing it, or like, do you want one stake per press, or?
Yeah. When I was teaching this project, my students, they're all like, why does this look so unrealistic? They're just like, you can just win the game by like holding space down, right? So that would exactly be it. If we go back to our player controller, that's because we use the input.getKey. So this is going to return true at every single time frame that we're holding the space key down. And yeah, like what you're saying, we're actually going to want to use input.getKey down, because that's only going to return true in that one frame where we press the spacebar key the first time. So we should only shoot out some food, the projectile, one time every time we press the spacebar key. And so I think that's going to make it like a much healthier change. If I hold the spacebar down, I can't just like, I don't instantly like win the game. I have to keep on spamming it. Okay, so we have that, and we actually have these game objects spawning now. So I'm just going to delete the game objects in my hierarchy. So the obstacles like the cow, the horse, the border collie, my hierarchy, because they are just going to spawn through the spawn manager. And now what I want to work on is how do we get these objects to collide with each other? How do we like create this collision where the projectile actually shoots or feeds the animal? So to do that, we're actually going to look through each of the prefabs, the cow, the horse, and the border collie, and the steak to make sure it has the right components. What we want to do is kind of enact physics upon each of them to create this event where there's a collision between the colliders of the two objects. So you'll notice in the cow, horse, and border collie that they already have a box collider, which should be fitted to their dimensions. But if you go to your projectile atom, there is no collider. We're going to want to click Add Component. We're going to want to create a collider here. I'm actually going to double click my prefab here. Click Open Prefab. Go into my scene view. So that's going to let me see my stake in detail. And if you're having a hard time focusing this camera around the game object, you can press F to focus it. Okay. I like to center it at least. And then, okay, then here in the inspector, I'm going to go add a component and actually add, there's a couple different colliders you can use. If you type in collider, we don't want any of the 2D colliders, but we can use a box, a capsule, a sphere. A mesh wouldn't work unless we have a specific mesh object, which we don't. So I'm going to create a box collider. So here is fitted pretty perfectly to dimensions. I forgot how tall the dog collider is. So I'm just going to hack the game project a little bit and make my steak collider like really long or really tall it is. Just because I don't want it to accidentally like fly past the dog and miss it because the dog's so short. Okay, there we go. Hit save here. Then I'm good with my collider. Okay, now in order for things to actually react for a collider, there's like a specific set of, there's like a table that you have to follow. Let's see if I can find it. Unity, collision, matrix. It can get kind of complicated. So like the object, so let's say you have two objects. One is right here on the left and one is on top. They all have to have like certain things in order to actually collide. So if you want a trigger message, this is what you need to collide on both of them. This is kind of complicated to see, but essentially what we're gonna need in order for these objects to collide, at least one of them needs a rigid body. A rigid body is basically saying this is like an object of physics. It's going to adhere to physics law. So we're gonna add a component. I'm gonna select all the prefabs here and just create this rigid body. You can change the mass to however you want to. It won't affect the game in any way. It might slow down. No, actually, I don't think it will affect the game because we're using translate. And we're not going to use gravity because this is a top-down shooter. You may want to use gravity in other games. And you can freeze the rotation. You freeze the Y, but you don't need too much here. The rigid body is just solely for like collision purposes. Okay, so now that they all have the rigid body, we're going to go back to our scripts and we're going to create a new script, something for collision detection. Detect collision. We're just going to attach the script to all of our animals so that when they detect that the projectile is colliding with them, then we're going to do something about it. Let's go ahead and open up the script. It's going to be pretty easy. We don't need a start. We don't need an update. All we need is a specific Unity function that it actually gets called every time Unity detects a collision. So it's void on trigger enter. So it's called whenever the collider enters the trigger. Oh, we haven't really talked about trigger. I'll get to that in a second. But when that happens, we're just going to destroy other.gameObject. Then we're going to destroy this game object. So we're just going to destroy both the animal and the projectile. Then we're going to go back to Unity. We're going to make sure this is attached to all the prefabs. Destroy, detect collision. And the specific method we were using was on trigger enter. If you check out the box collider, you'll notice that the is trigger is checked marked. There's a couple of different collision methods you can use, but in general, I like to use on trigger enter, and you have to make sure to check the trigger check mark in the box collider. Okay, now let's go ahead and test this game out. And now it should work. Cool. It's a nice shadow too. Nice state. I think something that I don't like is that my animals move a little bit too fast. So I'm just going to adjust that a little bit in the hierarchy. I'm just going to select all of them. For move forward, I'm going to change that to like 10 or something. And maybe I want my horse to move a little bit faster, but not too much. So I can keep that at like 12.
Oh, Emily, so when you like highlight all the prefabs, you could change one component of one of them and it changes it for all of them?
Yeah. So I can do things like all at once to them.
Could you go back to the move forward C# file?
Here we go.
Thank you.
Yeah. Does anyone else have other questions? Good to go.
So when you add, oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
So when you add a component,
Mhm.
it's supposed to like autofill in a way, right?
Yeah, in a way. So, for example, are you talking about the move forward?
Yeah. So like if you're adding like move forward or.
Let's say I created like a public float x and a public float y equals 5 or 4. If I could save this and go back to Unity, which will compile my script. And I think move forward was in my cal. Here we go. So move forward is going to autofill my x to be 0, so I can fill that out, and then it's going to autofill 4 to be or to be whatever value I set it to be in the script.
Sorry. I mean like when you're adding a new component, how do you make it so that like move forward it links the script file to like the prefab in the inspector?
Yeah. So when we add a component, it's saying out of all these components, that's like we want to give this specific prefab or game object like these kind of attributes or like traits. So we're actually like directly adding the script right here. When we type in move forward, we're adding the script component to the game object. So when I create it,
it's not showing up for me. Is there like the only option I have would be to create a new script. And I'm pretty sure.
Did you create the move forward script?
I'm pretty sure it's in the correct place.
In the scripts folder?
Yes.
Is it saved?
Yeah. Actually, let me see.
Mhm.
It says that there is a.
If there's like an error in your console or script, that might be a problem.
I don't think this should error.
Okay, see if you, this is another way we can do it. So go ahead and grab the prefabs and just drag and drop them into the hierarchy again. And then we can actually attach the script in a more direct way. What you're gonna want to do is go back to your scripts, grab the move, or actually select it, the prefab in your inspector first, and scroll down. Then you can grab the move forward script and just directly drop it in like that. Does that work? If there's a problem, you might see like a sign similar to this, what I have here. You can try to like move it to where you see this kind of blue line. But if you're not seeing that, then there might be a bigger issue.
Okay, wait, I think it's because I had a. Okay, no, it works now, sorry. It's because I had a syntax error.
Okay. Glad you figured it out. Okay, so there's one more thing we should do before we move on to score, and it's this destroy out of bounds script. Let's go ahead to my prefabs. Go ahead and select all the prefabs, and the destroy out of bounds script was just a script that I wrote earlier. It's just a very simple if-else statement. We're checking the position to see if it's like past the bounds of our picture. Just like if transform.position.x is greater than this, then we're gonna like destroy the game object. So just go ahead and attach it to all of your scripts. And other than that, I think we're just about done with this game, except we just need to do the scoring left. Yeah. Okay, let me know when you guys are all ready to move forward to the next part. Nick's ready.
Can you go over the collision detection script again?
Mm-hmm. Right here.
Oh yeah.
Let me know if you have any questions about it.
See again. So when the game objects hit, it will destroy the food and the animal.
Yeah.
So other game object. So can you go? I'm sorry to ask. I got a little behind, to be completely honest with you.
It's okay. Yeah.
Can you go over how to attach that to the prefabs again?
Mm-hmm. So let's pull up Unity. I'm just gonna go click my prefabs. And then I only want to attach this to like one of them, either the food or the cow, horse, or collie. So I just attached it to my animals. I'm gonna select all the prefabs by shift selecting the cow, horse, and border collie. And then at the very bottom, I'm gonna click add component, and it's called detect collision. So I'm gonna type it out in my search. It's gonna say, oh yeah, there is a script that's called detect collision. And then you can just hit enter here or click add component.
Cool.
Did you get it working?
I'm gonna test it really quick.
Okay.
I can't hit the. Oh yeah. Let me try to hit another animal. Am I good at this?
You might have to change the speed of the animals in the move forward script. Yeah, I think the speed earlier was like quite high.
Okay, I'll change the speed to 6, but it does work. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Okay. And that basically wraps up what the Unity Unit 2 tutorial, but something that my student, when we covered this, like asked for was to create a scoring system, because there's no point in a game without like, feeling some reward. So we're just gonna talk about that real quick. So to create a score, there's 2 components. You want the back end, like adding the score up, and then you want like a very nice visual display as well. Not very artistic, but we're gonna try our best to create something beautiful. We're gonna right click in our hierarchy, and we're gonna go to UI, and we are gonna choose text mesh pro, and this is just gonna be our score text. I'm gonna click yes, cool. And then if you double click the canvas, it's going to zoom us out to this huge kind of like white square above our little playground right here. And I'm just gonna click on these toggles in the corner until I get to a part where I can see my text clearly. So it says new text. And if you're teaching students Unity, they might get freaked out, like, oh my God, why is it over here? I want it small and like right here. But if you actually look in your game view, it's going to be perfectly like where the player's perspective is, right here. Then we're just gonna move this text around so that it looks nice. Let's see, you can move it around by going to the move tool or the W button on your keyboard. Then you can move it using the arrows. You can move this using your position X, Y. I think I want it at the top, so I'm gonna go to my rect transform in my text, and I'm gonna Alt Shift, select the center top right here. So that's gonna anchor my text at the top. It's gonna set my position X, Y, Z to 0. And if I want to move this a little bit like lower in my game view, my text is right there. I'm just gonna bring my Y to a negative number relative to the anchor. There, I think that looks okay. Oh, it's a negative 30. It's a negative number. Okay. I'll just manually do it. Okay. And I'm gonna write something like score 0 here. Cool. And then it would be a good idea for you to like download your own font and put it in. We don't have to really worry about that. You can change the style. Here, this score actually looks really pixelated. So in that situation, I like to increase my text to this huge number, my font size. And then in the scale, I'm gonna just scale it down to like 0.1. Usually that works. I'm not sure why it's not working right now. Let's see. To stable wrapping. Okay, that's really interesting. How it looks. Okay, what is going on? I'm just gonna reset it back to what I had before. UI is not fun to work with. Okay, it says score 0. I think that's good enough for me. I'm gonna make sure it's centered. Then that's basically just gonna be my UI. And Unity should auto create this canvas that your text sits on. So that's just gonna be anything UI related that you want to have like right in front as an overlay over the player's camera. It's just all gonna be on the canvas. And now here, we're actually going to create a new script that's gonna contain the score. So I'm just gonna right click, create a C# script. I'm gonna call it score. I'm gonna open the script up. And in order to use the text editor that we did, TMP Pro, we're gonna need to import using TMP or TM Pro. We're going to want to access the script, public TMP text. We're gonna want to create a score variable. This part is going to be really interesting. We want it to be a static variable. So we're actually going to do a public static int score. It's going to be static so that it'll be very easy to access and increment and decrement the score. And we only really want one score throughout the whole game. So static would be great here. And then update, we're just going to say text.text equals to score plus score.
Text score.
Is everything working okay?
Yeah, you're making it static so anything can update, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of cool. We're using our computer programming fundamentals here, static versus non-static. Okay, and then we're gonna go to the script that actually is where we're detecting collisions, right? We're probably gonna wanna increase the score every single time like we hit an animal or we feed an animal, code school friendly terms. And that's gonna be our detect collision script in our onTrigger enter script. So here, we're actually just gonna access the script and call the static variable. In like other languages, non-Unity specific, we just call score the script dot score, which is the static variable plus plus. That's just gonna increment our score variable.
Compiler errors.
Yeah, and now you guys can go and test that out too. So go back to Unity, wait for it to compile. It looks like it's not incrementing. Why is that? Oh, so the problem with we're not done just quite yet. We're gonna want to actually, what is it? We're actually gonna want to attach the script to text. We haven't actually enabled the script to happen. So I'm gonna click on my text. I'm gonna add score to it. I can just put it in the hierarchy here. Cool, now it shows up here. That's gonna say no text available. I'm just gonna drag its own object onto itself. Note how we didn't say public game object, we said public like a component instead. But when you drag the game object into itself in the script, it'll retrieve the component from the game object for us. So that's nice. And then now it should work.
Can I get a cow? Oh, it's working.
Cool.
This is really great.
Looking kind of cool. Game is feeling a little bit unpolished still, but that's probably because we haven't added any like sound effects to make like the tactile feedback a little better. Yeah, you could also, instead of, so what happens if an animal gets past you, a game over message displays in the console. So you could add some text for that, or you could just decrement the score instead. Those are all some like options to do to customize this game. Yeah. That basically wraps up what we wanted to do in this workshop. Do you guys have any questions or anything you want to go over?
Does Unity, like this is really cool. But does Unity have like a leaderboard?
A
built into
leaderboard?
it? Like high score stuff? Like you can.
Oh. I don't believe so, but if you check out the Unity Asset Store, leaderboard, someone else might have created it and put it up on the Asset Store, which you can download. Very simple leaderboard. Oh, this is cool. This one's like $5.
I think the question is more, maybe I'm misunderstanding, but no, do you mean like persistent storage? Like you play the game and then get a high score, and then when you open the game later, it's the same high score? Is that what you're referring to? Or are you talking about the actual
yeah, like the pinball games kind of.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Or but I'll let you, I'll take my answer offline, or not offline, but
I'm sure you can create an actual leaderboard like image yourself. You'd have to create like the own UI and stuff for that and text. In the same way we created the score. For saving information, like saving a game, loading a game, like keeping a high score variable, you'll have to create a JSON file, like stream contents, or like turn like a class data structure like the score and stream it into your JSON, save it, and then load it up next run through.
That's cool. Have you ever used something like Firebase with Unity?
Firebase?
Or like any of like Unity's like cloud storage stuff?
No, I actually haven't. No.
Cool. I was just curious.
Yeah, if you have, I would love to like learn more.
I've used Firebase, but not with Unity. There's an extent you can use it with Unity, but I was just curious if you've done anything like that.
Not.
That is really cool. Yeah, this is your best workshop by far.
Thank you. I think I went a bit fast. Sorry about that, Lulu.
No,
these
okay.
guys have been to the other workshops.
I'll rewatch the recording.
I hope you learned something from it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is cool. This is cool.
Okay. Awesome. Do you guys have any other questions or anything? Do we want to review any of like the other scripts that we didn't cover in this workshop?
I've got a student. So I'm a Unity noob. You're the only lessons I've taken on Unity, to be completely honest. I've got a student right now, and she wants to go over Unity, and we're doing just the tutorials. She's super mature for her age, so it's working out well. But is there anything that you would recommend? Like we did all the go-kart, like the the tutorials that are in the games. Is there anyone like we just went over what like a C# class is. She's got a little bit of Python experience, but that's about it.
Oh, okay. Then I would say starting with like, have you covered the unit 1? So it was the first workshop that I taught. I think that might be a really good starting point for, yeah. There's like, I think it goes up to like unit 3 at least. And yeah, it has like at least a couple months of material.
Cool.
Mhm.
Do you think like it's worth it, like just for like the next 6 or 8 months, just to do Unity tutorials with her and like not even try to like let her build a game from scratch? Or should we like say like, okay, you've done this many tutorials, you can go off and build your own game sort of thing? Or
that might be a better question for Jimmy, if that's okay for a student. But I would say it's very, very hard to build a game from scratch, like a polished looking game from scratch. You know, something that you would want your students to like show off to their parents. You would want to like start from a tutorial. You could customize the tutorial a bit, like we could choose our own animals today or our food, or you could add like scoring and that kind of thing. But yeah, I would say it would be a struggle teaching a student a game from scratch because they're going to have all these like big ideas of what they can do with Unity, but it's going to be really hard to implement it.
okay, so maybe just avoid that for right now. Just do tutorials.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, Jimmy, do you think that's okay to do?
No, I think that's totally wise. Like, because you know, it generally like students will their scope and scale. You know, as amazing as it is, it's also like there's an impractical side of it too. Like, especially if you're just learning a new platform. So I think it's totally cool to, you know, like if let's say you're just learning Unity too. Like, we've had coaches that, you know, they didn't know iOS, but what they did was they had that no starch press book and were going over the chapters, like, you know, chapter 1, chapter 2, and then pretty much learning alongside the student. But yeah, don't feel like you like have to know everything. I mean, it's, you know, eventually you will, like, as you like take on more students and you get the hang of it, but it's totally cool to learn alongside the student too.
Cool. That makes sense. Yeah, that's my game plan. I'm just gonna do tutorials for the next 6 or 8 months.
Yeah, that's totally cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good Unity resources out there.
Cool.
I think I have to go, but thank you for the workshop. It was
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
I think
Thank
that'll
you so
wrap
much,
up the
Emily.
project workshop. Thank you so much for coming, guys.
All right.
Good
Appreciate
night.
it.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
All right.
Good night.
See you later.